Hello and welcome everyone to Chromatic Counsel. I am so glad you're here. I am your host, Carrie Heaps, and happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. As you know, I like to start off the show just to let everyone know the color I'm wearing, which today is green. Obviously, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, I have my little shamrock here. But as you all know, if you do follow the show, I like to talk a little bit about the psychology behind each color that I'm wearing. And green is the color of, excuse me, the color of growth and harmony. It's a wonderful color to wear for mediation, especially if you go with a lighter shade. It can be a little bit more calming. So if you have a client that you're trying to get to be a little bit, maybe they're a little high strung or maybe they're really nervous and you want to help calm them, this is a great color to wear. I think green is an excellent accent color. So for you gentlemen, your ties, your pocket squares, even your socks could be another great place to add a pop of color. And for ladies, you could wear your jacket, you could wear a scarf, or even any accessory, necklace, or earring that has some green in it. If you want to learn more about how you can use color in the courtroom, click on the link in the show notes below to download the Color of Persuasion. It is a free webinar that I put together for attorneys. There is no CLE accreditation in any state for that class, so you're welcome to download that and watch it when you can. Today, I've got a great show lined up for you today, and my guest is Monica Burkoth. On this episode, I have Monica joining me. She's here now. She is an equity partner and seasoned trial attorney who has been recognized as one of the Illinois Super Lawyers Rising Star since 2018. She's been named among best lawyers, ones to watch, and honored as a top 40 under 40 and emerging lawyer. Monica is not only a powerhouse in the courtroom, but also the founder of the Confident Counsel Academy, where she helps female attorneys reprogram limiting beliefs, lead with confidence, and position themselves as thought leaders. Her work's been featured in different print publications such as Vogue, Goss, and Authority magazine. Monica, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm glad that we were able to initially connect on LinkedIn. And I went to your site, learned a little bit more about you, and I thought you would make an amazing guest for the show. I'd love for you to share just a little bit more about you and your journey, kind of what made you choose law as a profession.
So I originally went to college to become an English teacher. And the only reason I chose English and to be a teacher was because I had no idea what to do. And everyone said, "Well, what subject were you good at in high school?" And I said, I love to read and I like to write. So I guess I'll be an English teacher." And while I was in college studying to become an English teacher, I wasn't really passionate about it, but I really had nothing else really lined up. I had no idea what I would do. I'm a child of immigrant parents. My parents didn't finish college. And so I really didn't have anyone to look up to in that sense. I just thought, okay, well, I'll be a teacher. And I'm glad I'm not because it's the hardest job. I think I have a few teacher friends. I can never see myself doing that. But what happened is when I was in college, I was a sophomore. I was picked for a jury.
Mm.
And I sat on a jury in federal court in the courthouse that I actually try cases in now. And it was a civil rights jury. And I practice in civil rights now. I mean, like the synchronicity does not escape me. Like how it came full circle is bananas. But I'm sitting in that jury trial. And, growing up, I think as a child, I always wanted to be like an actress or something. And my mom, God bless her, was like, be more realistic, not everyone can do something like that. Like, and so, but I think a piece of me just loved like the drama and the theatrics of it. And as I'm watching these attorneys on trial, something in me was like, I can do that. Like, I can do that. And after that trial ended, it was a week long. I went back to campus and I signed up to take the LSAT. And now here I am 12 years later, tried a ton of cases. I tried my first jury trial the day after I was sworn in. So like jumped right in and have been trying cases and talking about trial and just loving all of that ever since.
So you learned how to swim in the deep end of the pool, per
Oh
se.
yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so your civil rights, was there a specific reason that you picked that? Is it because you were on a jury for that, or is there
Um,
kind of a little
you
bit of a
know,
story there?
yeah, there is a little bit of a story there. Again, everything kind of weirdly lines up. So my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, no, I can't even remember if we were dating. I think we had just started dating. He was also
Mhm.
studying to become a teacher. And around the time that I was studying for the LSAT, he was a few years older than me. He had applied for the police department.
Mm,
And when I got into law school, he joined the Chicago Police Department. And so that civil rights thing was kind of right there. I saw him putting his life on the line every day at work, and I saw the sacrifice that the police officers made. And it reminded, okay, I just watched a trial where it
mhm,
was, with police officers, and it just like it felt so resonant to me. Like, okay, if I want to do justice and I want to protect, I also want to protect police. And so I ended up in municipal law.
mhm. Wonderful. Now, obviously, what changed a little bit? You have the Confident Counsel Academy, which I love. But what kind of made you change and pivot and kind of create that?
So it was born out of a sense of fulfillment, unfulfillment for me personally. And I think that's like the high achiever's curse, right? I feel like we climb a mountain and then we look around and we're like, what's next? And for me personally, I thought that if I made equity partner and if I had this book of business, I would be set. I would be good. I would feel fulfilled. I would, and I hit that. I hit equity. I have my own book of business, and then I thought maybe I need to have kids, right? So then I have kids, and I still feel something is like I'm meant for more. I have this pull, like something is not. The world hasn't seen the best of me. I just couldn't shake that feeling, and so then I started thinking about trying cases, and after becoming a mom. Well, let me back up. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting scattered because I get excited
No,
talking
it's
about
okay.
this. But before I became a mom, I would try cases. I would pour all of myself into the case. And then for 2 weeks after the trial, I would be a potato. I would be brain dead. I couldn't do any work. I would just be so zapped mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything that I like could not contribute to like the world. The most I could do is maybe respond to the emails. I couldn't do any substantive work, any analysis, nothing like that. It just, all of me, I like left it on the court, so to say. Okay. And so it took, and when talking to other lawyers, people are like, oh yeah, it takes me like days to come off of a trial. Like there's this post-trial hangover. And when you become a mom to little humans who rely on you, you can't have a week-long post-trial hangover. You need to like jump back in. You need to be a functioning human. You need to be a supportive mom, a present mom, right? So I was like, are we all doing this thing wrong? Like, yeah, we want to pour into it and like give it all our all, but like there's got to be a more sustainable way. And I think the problem is me, and I think many women, we're trying cases like men. We're showing up to work like men from this masculine energy where it's like, get shit done. We gotta go, like, wake up at 4 a.m., green drink,
Run
pump some
hard the whole
iron. Yeah,
day.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you're just sprinting the whole day. And like, yeah, for my husband, that works, right?
Mhm,
That works for him. But for me, I was burning out and I wasn't recognizing what that was until I became a mom. Like, oh, wow, like I'm super burnt out. This is not sustainable. And so for me, what I started doing is like regulating my nervous system. What is that? I had no idea what that was for the last 12 years. It's basically taking deep breaths and meditating and journaling and pouring into myself, something that men don't have to do to be successful, but that women need to do. We need to be in like our flowy, like feminine energy. Otherwise, we are literally zapped out. It's not sustainable. And so I created Confident Counsel Academy slightly out of like I wanted to like write down and teach everything that I was kind of doing, the way that I now work up cases, the way I now see the world. I kind of combine like all of the elements of like the personal development stuff that I've loved. I'm also a certified coach. And so all the mindset, personal growth kind of concepts mixed with how are we going to try cases? How are we going to feel the most confident? How are we going to feel the most pulled together, the most magnetic, but then also not have a post-trial hangover? So it's
mhm,
like spiritual, holistic, stepping into your power, but also doing it in a way that feels good and is authentic and is not draining or exhausting. And it leads to more fulfillment and just a better career and more opportunities. And when you're not zapped and destroyed and spread too thin, even if you're not trying cases, that's how we're all living if we're, female litigators. You need to find a way to find a balance. And so Confident Counsel Community was born out of like, I need to help. I need to spread the good word. Like I need to teach women
mhm.
about this. This is not how we can do this. Like we can't try cases like this anymore.
And I've been taking notes while you were talking because I could not agree with you more. And as far as and I never heard of it put that way, but just kind of like a post-trial hangover. But I used to speak at events and I used to produce events many years ago. I was a meeting planner, and I can relate to that because you prepare all the way up to that one event that happens over like maybe a 3 or 4 hour period, and you're around people all the time, you're getting people excited, and you give it your all, and like after the event is over, it's like you're like, okay, I'm headed down, I'm tired. You go home, you rest, and then like for the next week or so, you don't even I didn't even want to talk to anybody. Like I don't want
Yes,
to be
that's exactly
around
right. I'm like, I can't
anybody.
speak. Don't look at me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it would just be like I just needed to recoup from that because I gave so much to the event. So I would
Mhm.
imagine it's the same thing. And I think too, a lot of attorneys, I see so much with mental health in every single state that I do CLE in. They're really pushing about, take care of yourself. And, like the Florida Bar, they have 2 pages on their site about mental health and just wellness and taking care of yourself because it is such a high stress environment. And that's why I love like with the mindset. And when you were talking about journaling, meditation, I do that every morning. I have my journal. I journal every day.
Hmm.
I do that brain dump and what
Hmm.
am I grateful for and what do I envision my life? Because there is something to manifesting. There is something about your mindset. If you can change the way you're thinking, you can change your life, you can change the world, and it's amazing. I mean, I've even seen it myself where I've been like, oh my gosh, if anybody else looked at my situation, they would think, oh wow, this is not good, and then I've been able to change my life like in 90 days. Like that's something that would take somebody a couple of years. I did in 90 days. It's because of my mindset.
Yes.
Do you see a lot of because I think attorneys in general are they're risk takers, but they're trained to question everything. Do you find that you have a lot of blowback per se on mindset, and when you talk about the academy, do you feel that there's kind of like a, oh no, that doesn't align with what I've been taught to do? I mean, do you get that?
Yes. Do you know who's the most triggered by it? Men.
Who?
Men.
Really
Very
wow.
much so. I think I posted something that was like, we've been sold a lie. We don't have to work hard. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be hard work, right? My dad was a truck driver. He still is. He's his whole life. He's on the road 6 days a week. We saw him once a week. He worked so hard. And is he like a millionaire, like sitting on like a yacht somewhere? No, right? So it's like hard work is not the answer, right? There's
Mhm.
something else that has to be an ingredient in it, right? It can't just be hard work. And I think men are like hard work, hard work, hard work. And so when I talk about some of this stuff where it's like another thing that I posted was about how I made partner and
Mhm.
how um I did it by believing that I was somebody that was worthy of being a partner. I talked to my colleagues as if I was already in a leadership position. I mentored others. I assisted. I thought I had 2 steps ahead on the case. It
Mhm.
wasn't that I was staying there till 9 p.m., although
Mhm.
some people were doing that. I wasn't doing that. I was going home at 5, like I, how at clock out time, but I was dressing different. I was
Mhm.
talking different. I wasn't putting anyone on a pedestal. I did it myself, right? I believed that I was it and I became it. And that triggers men because they were responding on that post like, and this is nothing, not all men are like this, of course, but and I have all sons, right? So I love men. But a lot of some of these men were responding like, well, you couldn't have got there without the help of others. And I said, I disagree. I did this on my own.
Mhm.
I have to believe in me in order to get to this. And yeah, there's just major pushback there. So yeah, there absolutely is.
Yeah.
Women, I feel like they sense a truth in this. They believe,
Mhm.
they're like, okay, I resonate with this because something deep within me is saying, yes, I think this might be the way, And
Mhm.
so they're starting to kind of come around to these types of things. But attorneys, we're so, the limiting beliefs that are like deeply ingrained in us, especially in law school, the scarcity mindset, the competition.
Mhm.
You only have one shot, you have to be perfect. You have one shot to take the exam and get an A. You have one shot at the bar exam. You have to outwork all of your classmates. Even if you get an A, it's not good enough because someone got an A plus and now you got a C because of the curve. Like it's never good enough. There's never enough. And that is something that all of us have to rewire if we want to find success, if we want to find fulfillment, if we want to find happiness in this job, any job.
Mhm. I love everything that you're saying. And that was interesting that men, I would think that both men and women, but maybe men are a little bit harder to convince on that. And maybe it takes them a little bit of time. I kind of get the same blowback too with some of the CLEs that I do, just like which the color of persuasion, which is not accredited, I talk about. That is a big thing. And I will tell you, I get, even though the class is, I made it free because I'm like, I really want to help attorneys understand, hey, this is another tool you can use, just like body language. And I remember when I first started teaching the class, I had an attorney afterwards. He goes, well, where's the science on this? And I'm like, well, there really isn't that a lot of science. So I started incorporating, I'm like, here, you want to see this in, how this is played out? Let's look at the Alec Murdaugh trial. Let's look at the Heard versus or Depp versus Heard trial. There are examples in there about color, whether they used it intentionally or not, that people resonate with that. Your jurors are not like the plaintiff's attorney or the defense attorney. They're people like me, or like you said, like your dad, or like they are everyday people,
Hmm.
and color resonates. And I think once they see it, like, oh, okay, I get it. Like it's played out in their field per se. They kind of get it. Like they need a little bit more social proof sometimes. So, speaking of like women attorneys, what would be like two tips that you would share with women attorneys, that things that they're not doing that they should?
They're measuring themselves against an ideal that doesn't exist as opposed to the progress that they've made and how far they've come. So
Mhm.
instead of, there is no perfect, right? We're all trained to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. Every briefing, every filing, every word that we say has to be perfect, but that doesn't exist. And I think, yeah, that law school, like perfection is something that is so like stuck in all of us. I think
Mhm.
women really need to recognize that the way to feel really good about yourself, to increase your confidence, to feel fulfilled and happy in this job is to stop measuring yourself against what perfection is and instead look at how much progress you've made. So if you get a brief back from a partner and it's all, marked red or whatever, they only will focus on the wrong. They won't
Mhm.
focus on the 6 pages or whatever that had no markings on them,
Mhm.
like they'll only focus on the bad. And so instead of focusing on the bad, I think more focus on the good. And then the other thing I would say is, my God, do we need to regulate our nervous systems? It's like our bodies think that we're constantly being chased by a tiger. If you get an email from your boss, this is how I used to be. I would get an email from a client that was a little bit difficult. And I would immediately get like this like hot flash and like this like pounding, this constricting feeling in my chest as if I was legit being chased by a bear. And my body doesn't know any different, right? So then I try to go on and like do analysis or like, try to put together some sort of a case summary for a client. And I can't think straight and I can't figure out why. And I'm wasting time. And, when you got billable hours, there's no time to waste. And so I'm wasting time because I'm so dysregulated. I can't think creatively. I can't think straight. It's like "Bleh," in my brain. And it took me a decade to figure that out. That's not
Mhm.
normal.
Yeah.
And the sooner you can recognize, okay, and really just understand your body, like, oh my God, I feel so tight here. Like I feel uncomfortable. My body is telling me something. There's an inner
Mhm.
guiding system here that is screaming to you, listen, listen, take a step, maybe walk away, take a deep breath. So just it won't be time wasted. There's so much guilt also. If I'm not working, I'm not being productive. Where's my worth is tied to my productivity. I used to be really bad about that. I couldn't even take a walk around the block because I would be like guilty checking my email, is somebody looking for me.
Mhm.
But that's not healthy either. That 10 minutes you take on that walk where you just turn it all off and you come back clear, you're going to save yourself so much time on the back end. So just regulate your nervous system and look for the positives instead of the negatives.
I love that. I love that. It kind of makes me think of, in terms like for me personally, one thing that I really struggled with being an entrepreneur is boundaries. Having those
Yes.
tight boundaries of, this is when I'm available, and turning off the computer and not being, and regulating like who gets access to my cell phone number, and, do I answer this call because you can't work 24/7. So with that, like who makes a good referral? Who would really benefit from being a part of the Confident Counsel Academy? What would be that avatar? Um,
I think it's any female attorney who got into this work because they felt a pull to for some reason, but are not feeling fully satisfied by it. And it's
Mhm.
probably because you're not honoring your body and your mind and your spirit and everything in the way that you're practicing it. You were called here for a reason, but it's just misaligned. And so you
Mhm.
kind of need to rebalance everything. Also, the woman who feels like maybe she's not getting recognized or she's getting passed up, who's really wants to get like moved ahead and who wants to be promoted and get business, but she feels like it's evading her. This woman would also be perfect for the academy. Anybody that his voice shakes in court, but all they want to do is be a trial lawyer, but they feel like they can't shake the fear, that
Mhm.
person would be perfect for the Confident Counsel Academy as well. Honestly, this would be amazing for any woman that's a litigator, because it is a high stakes, high pressure, high stress environment, and we need to take care of ourselves first.
Absolutely. And obviously, as you know, the name of the show is Chromatic Counsel. So I always have to ask everyone this, do you have some favorite go-to colors that you have found like, hey, mediation went really well, or that trial went really well? Do you ever notice you have certain outfits or colors that you're wearing that may have helped kind of influence that outcome?
I feel the most like bossy and polished in like a navy blue suit.
Mhm.
Um, but if I'm like wearing just like a pop of color or something, pink. I
Mhm.
love pink. And I think it's like a little jarring to people in court because at least in federal court, it's black, white, and gray. And I've heard judges say, counsel, black, white, or gray, see you next week. Like they don't even want to see color. They're a little tougher on men than they are on women, but and
Mhm.
I used to dress like a man for literally a decade, black suits, gray suits, but I like navy because I'm blonde, I have blue eyes. I feel like it kind of pulls everything together and I feel like powerful and crisp with like a white shirt underneath. But I love print personally, and
Mhm.
I try to incorporate print in my trial outfits as much as possible because I feel like I'm fun and vibrant and vivacious, and I want my clothes to express that as well. And that also took me years to get to that point too.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And you're not the first attorney that has talked about wearing pink in the court. I've had a few others on the show that same thing, and even red. I even had one attorney who's
Mm.
like, I have a red power suit that I wear. And I'm like, wow, I was kind of, she said it's a dress suit and jacket suit. And she said, I really like when I really want to bring it home, that's what I wear,
I love it. I have
so.
maroon. That's as close to, I'm like a maroon is like as far as I've gone in terms of like a suit color. But I would love to. I saw a woman in like a bright blue suit once, and I was like, oh, I want to be able to do that. But I just do think that some courthouses are a little bit more formal than others.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like the federal courthouse is probably the most like strict in terms of like attire. But I've been pushing it a little bit more every single time, I feel. I'm
Yeah,
gonna keep.
one of the classes that I recently did here in Florida for CLE, it's Professionalism Perfected, and it's all about dress codes. And when I was doing my research on that, I was kind of surprised. Like there were some court systems that, yeah, they have a very strict dress code. They put it out there on the site. And then others, it's like, oh yeah, we want just business casual, professional, or not business casual, business professional or professional. And it's like those two sentences. And like if I asked you what professional is in Chicago, it's going to be different than professional dress here in Florida. So I'm like, wow, that's no help at all. So
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
see where there's probably some, it is different and people don't want to take that risk. So
Hmm.
is there anything coming up, Monica, that you would love to share with the listening audience? Anything with you or with the Academy that you'd like to share?
Well, as I'm slowly building out the academy, because it's still, 'cause I originally started by coaching one-on-one clients, and I wanted to now package it into something that I could teach to groups at a time. And so I created the membership. And so as I'm uploading those modules and working on that, I just have a wait list going as I'm building up this community. But I do want to share that I do have a newsletter called Mindset Mondays, and every Monday I'll send out a email with some sort of like a mindset shift or something, a new way to look at life or perspective change, to help you kind of step into your power that week. And so I love writing those and I love sharing those. I'm getting a lot of good feedback on that. So
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. I really appreciate your time. And thank you for joining us. And good luck with the Academy. I'm going to be watching that as well to see how that transpires for you.
thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a great conversation.
Absolutely. And that is a wrap on today's episode of Chromatic Counsel. I hope that you found inspiration and insight. And if you did, make sure that you click the like button and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with any other attorney that you think might need a little bit of extra color in their life, whether it's in the courtroom or outside of the courtroom. And again, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, feel free to click on the note in the show notes below. I have a form in there that you can fill out to be a guest. And if you'd like to get in touch with Monica directly, we have a link to her website and LinkedIn profile in the show notes below. And I hope you can join us next time. And as always, I am wishing you a wardrobe full of vibrancy.